Welcome back to my channel. Tonight I want you to sit somewhere quiet. Maybe switch off the lights and let your screen be the only glow in the room. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't fiction pulled from a movie. These are stories that were told by people who swore they lived through them. And once you hear them, you might start seeing shadows a little differently. So take a deep breath. Here begins our first tale. It's called The Disappearing Passenger. Imran had been driving his yellow taxi for 15 years. He worked the night shift because the roads were empty, the fares were better, and the city felt calm in its own eerie way after midnight. But that calmness had a rule: don't drive near the old railway bridge after 1 a.m. Everyone in the local driver circle knew it, yet nobody talked about it too much. Imran didn't believe in ghost stories. He thought fear was for children and late-night gossip was just boredom in disguise. That changed on a rainy Thursday when the clock on his dashboard blinked 12:47 a.m. and a soft figure appeared by the side of the road. She wore a white shawl that clung to her shoulders like wet paper. Her hair hung heavy with reins. Imran slowed down, rolled the window halfway and asked, "Madam, do you need a ride?" The woman nodded without a word. Her eyes looked straight ahead, not at him. She opened the back door and slid in with a sound so faint that Imran wasn't sure if the door had closed properly. He asked, "Where to?" She said softly, almost whispering, "Near the graveyard, please hurry." Imran turned the wipers faster. The road stretched into darkness. Raindrops raced across the windshield, each one catching the yellow reflection of his taxi's light. For the first 10 minutes, the woman said nothing. Imran tried to glance in the mirror, but the fog on the glass blurred her shape. He wiped it with his finger. The back seat looked empty for a moment. Then she was there again, head tilted slightly toward the window. He cleared his throat. "Not many people out tonight," he said, hopping to break the silence. She didn't respond. When they passed the railway bridge, his engine made a strange choking sound. Just for a second, like the air had thickened. Imran pressed the pedal harder. Rain poured harder too, and the bridge lights flickered as if something was interfering with the power. Finally, he saw the graveyard wall. It was low and old, with moss crawling up the stones like veins. The woman suddenly said, "Stop here." He braked near the small iron gate. When he turned to ask for the fare, the seat behind him was empty. At first he thought she had slipped out quietly, so he looked around. The road was silent. The rain had already stopped. The only sound was the ticking of his meter. The back door was locked from inside. He unlocked it, stepped out, and felt the cold air sting his face. He looked at the gate, it was chained shut. No footprints, no sound of footsteps fading away. A chill ran through him. Then he noticed something white on the seat. A small corner of fabric, soaked and torn. It looked exactly like the edge of her shawl. A door creaked from a nearby house. An old man came out holding a lantern. "Who are you calling at this hour?" the man asked. Imran swallowed and said, "I just dropped a young woman here. She told me she lives near the graveyard." The man's face changed immediately. He stepped closer, his voice shaking. "Son, my daughter used to say the same thing." Imran blinked. "Used to?" "She died 10 years ago," the man said. "Right there on that bridge, a taxi hit her and ran away." Imran froze. The air around him felt heavier than the rain had been. He turned toward his car. The driver's side mirror showed his own face, but behind his reflection, in the back seat, sat the faint outline of a woman in white, smiling gently. He ran. He didn't even close the car door. He just ran down the road, his shoes slapping against puddles until his lungs burned. The next morning, when he returned with the police, his taxi was still there, engine cold. The torn piece of fabric had vanished. The meter was frozen on 13 minutes and 13 seconds. From that night onward, Imran refused to cross the bridge again. He told himself it was only an illusion, that maybe exhaustion had played tricks on him. But sometimes, other drivers would tell him that they saw his taxi, parked near the graveyard late at night, lights flickering, and a white-clad figure sitting quietly in the back seat. Imran left the taxi job after that winter. He moved to a small town near Faisalabad and started driving a delivery van during the day. But even in daylight, he often checked his rearview mirror. Sometimes he thought he saw a wet strand of hair, or the shimmer of a white shawl. He never told anyone again about that night, but the fear followed him like a quiet passenger who never left. That was the first story of the night. If you're still listening, remember, some roads are empty for a reason. When you see someone standing alone in the rain, maybe it's safer not to stop. Story 2: The House Across the Street. Sana had always dreamed of living alone. After years of sharing noisy hostels and cramped apartments, she finally found a quiet place in the old part of Rawalpindi. The street was narrow, lined with acacia trees that bent over the road like tired shoulders. Her building was small but bright, with a balcony that faced another house directly across from her window. That house was different from the rest. It looked forgotten, shutters hanging loose, the paint peeled off in thin, dusty curls. Every evening when the sun went down, the house disappeared into shadow, except for one small window on the top floor where a faint light glowed, like someone holding a candle. At first, Sana thought someone still lived there, but the neighbors told her the house had been empty for years. They said the owner had moved abroad after his wife and child died in a fire. The place, they said, had been unlucky ever since. Sana didn't believe in curses. She was practical, logical, a school teacher who taught science to teenagers. But the light in that window bothered her. It appeared at the same time every night, exactly at 9:30. It never flickered, never moved, just burned softly until midnight, then vanished. One evening, curiosity got the better of her. She decided to watch more closely. She brewed tea, pulled a chair to the balcony and waited. When the clock on her phone turned 9:30 p.m., the light appeared again. This time, she saw a small shadow moving behind the curtain, small enough to be a child. She frowned. Maybe some squatters had broken in. She took a picture with her phone zoomed in, but the image came out blurred, as if the air between her and that window wasn't completely real. The next morning, she crossed the street to the grocery shop and asked the shopkeeper, "Bye, are you sure that house is empty?" He nodded quickly. "Completely, no one goes there, even the door is sealed with a chain." Sana nodded but didn't feel convinced. When she went back to her apartment that evening, she found something odd. A small handprint, dusty and faint, was on her balcony railing. Too small to be an adult, and she lived on the 3rd floor. She wiped it away and tried not to think about it. That night, she dreamed of a little boy with burnt fingers, holding a candle. He was standing in the same window she saw every night. When she woke up, her apartment smelled faintly of smoke. Days passed and the feeling grew heavier. She couldn't sleep properly. Every creak in her apartment sounded like tiny footsteps above her. Every gust of wind against the glass felt like someone tapping softly to get in. One Friday evening, rain started to fall. The candlelight appeared again, brighter than before. Sana decided she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her umbrella, crossed the empty street, and walked toward the gate of the old house. The chain was still there, but the lock had rusted so badly that it broke when she pushed. The air inside smelled of damp wood and something else. Old smoke mixed with a sweet, unpleasant scent. She stepped through the dark hallway, her phone flashlight trembling in her hand. Wallpaper hung loose from the walls, and every step echoed as if the house remembered footsteps from long ago. She reached the stairs. They groaned under her weight, each one protesting after years of silence. When she reached the top floor, she saw the faint glow coming from a half-open door. The light wasn't electric, It really was a candle placed in the middle of the room. The room was full of children's toys. Tiny cars, wooden blocks, and a teddy bear missing one eye. Everything was covered in dust, except the candle and one clean spot on the floor where someone might have been sitting. Sana's heart thudded. She whispered hello. No answer. The candle flame bent sideways, though there was no wind. She took one step forward and felt something cold brush her arm. She turned sharply, her phone light flashing across the room. No one there. Only a toy train slowly rolling across the floor, though her feet hadn't touched it. Her breath quickened. She ran down the stairs, the beam of her phone bouncing wildly on the walls. When she reached the gate, it slammed shut behind her even though no one was near it. She ran home without looking back. Inside her apartment, she locked the door, sat on the floor and tried to calm down. Her phone was still recording. She had accidentally pressed the camera button while running. She replayed the video. At first it was just shaky darkness, her own breathing, her footsteps. Then for 2 seconds, as she turned toward the candle, the camera caught something behind her. A small boy, face half burnt, holding the teddy bear, smiling into the lens. He was standing so close that the screen almost filled with his face before the picture blurred. Sana dropped the phone. It hit the floor and went dark. She sat there all night, too frightened to move. The next morning, she deleted the video, packed a few clothes, and went to stay with a friend across the city. She told herself it was stress, imagination, fatigue, anything but ghosts. But 3 nights later, when she opened her friend's curtains, she froze. Across the street was another old house, and in the top window at exactly 9:30 p.m. a small candlelight flickered. Sana moved again after that. She stopped using balconies, stopped looking out of windows after dark. Sometimes when she passed toy shops, she caught the smell of smoke for no reason. And once, while scrolling through her phone gallery, she found a picture she didn't remember taking. It showed her standing near the old house, candlelight glowing behind her. The child was in the background, smiling again. Story 3, The Last Message. Hamza was 24, clever and lonely. He worked the night shift at a call center and spent his breaks chatting online. While others smoked outside, he sat at his desk, headphones on, drifting through forums that few people visited anymore. One night he found a site called Echo Gate. It was plain white text on a black background, filled with long threads titled things like Voices in the Screen, or When the Mirror Talks Back. Most posts looked like horror fiction, but the comment section moved fast, almost alive. At the top, a user named Mirrorsoul had written, "We can show you your future, reply with your real name." Hamza smiled. He was used to online games and dares. He typed his name, Hamza Rashid. Then he hit enter. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then a private message popped up. It contained a single photograph. At first he thought it was a glitchy screenshot, until he realized it showed his own bedroom, the chair, the posters, even the empty tea mug on his desk. The photo had been taken from behind him, from the same angle as his webcam, except his webcam light was off. He spun around. The room was empty. The window was closed, curtains drawn. He typed quickly, "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "I'm closer than you think." His stomach tightened. He unplugged the webcam, turned off the monitor and told himself it was a prank. But when he looked at his phone, the same photo had appeared there too, in his gallery, time-stamped only 30 seconds earlier. Hamza didn't sleep that night. He kept every light on, listening for the smallest sound. Around 3 a.m., the call center phone rang. He answered automatically, but the line was silent except for soft breathing. He said hello. A whisper replied, "Why did you unplug me?" He hung up. The ringing continued, even though the receiver was down. He pulled the wire from the walls. Still, a faint dial tone hummed inside the headset, like a heartbeat through plastic. By morning, he felt half-mad. He deleted the Echo Gate account, reset his computer, and even changed his SIM card. For 2 weeks nothing happened. Then one night his new phone vibrated. A message arrived from an unknown number, "Miss me." He blocked it immediately. An hour later another text came, this time from his own number. It read, "Look behind you." He dropped the phone. When he dared to glance at the dark screen of his laptop, he saw his reflection, and a second reflection standing behind him. A pale shape blurred with 2 grey eyes that didn't blink. He ran to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, tried to breathe. When he looked in the mirror, his reflection lagged for a second before copying the movement. Then its lips moved without sound. That was the last thing he remembered clearly. 2 days later, his colleague Nabil noticed Hamza hadn't come to work. He visited Hamza's apartment. The door was unlocked. The laptop was open on the desk, camera light glowing red. On the screen was the Echo Gate chat window, filled with hundreds of messages sent from Hamza's account, each one repeating the same words. "I can show you your future, but you must reply with your name." Nabil called the police. They found no trace of Hamza, only fingerprints on the keyboard that didn't match anyone in the system. The last outgoing message from Hamza's phone had been sent to Nabil himself. It contained one picture, a blurry photo of Nabil's own living room taken from behind him. He deleted it immediately, changed his number and moved to another city. But sometimes, when he opens a new social media app, he sees a friend request from an account called Mirror Soul. And the profile picture is always a shadow sitting at a computer. Story 4: The Neighbor. They say you never really know the people who live beside you. For years, Sana believed that. She lived alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building in Lahore. The rent was cheap, the walls were thin, and the lights flickered whenever someone used the elevator. But she didn't mind, it was quiet mostly. Her neighbor in apartment 3B was a man named Mr. Haroon. He was in his 50s, tall, polite, always wearing the same brown coat even in summer. He rarely spoke, except for a brief nod when they passed each other in the hallway. Sana often heard faint noises from his apartment, the dragging of furniture, whispers late at night, and sometimes a deep humming sound like someone chanting a prayer backwards. She assumed he was just lonely and eccentric. But things began to change the day she smelled something strange in the corridor. A sweet metallic odor, heavy like rust and perfume. It seemed to come from Haroon's door. That evening, when she went to take out the trash, she saw the door of 3B slightly open. Curiosity won over fear. She gently pushed it. The apartment was dark, except for a small red lamp glowing in the corner. There were dozens of framed photos on the walls, black and white portraits of people she didn't recognize. Every face had been scratched out, their eyes cut away. Her phone flashlight trembled as she looked around. Then she noticed something on the table, an old Polaroid camera. Next to it lay a pile of freshly printed photographs. The top picture made her freeze. It was a photo of her, standing in her kitchen pouring tea. The photo had been taken that same morning. Her throat went dry. She turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind her. A low voice came from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here, Sana." She backed away slowly. "Mr. Haroon, I just..." He stepped forward into the red light. His face looked normal, but his eyes were empty, as if something inside had already left. He held up the Polaroid camera. "I take pictures of what people are about to lose," he said calmly. "Every photograph shows someone moments before they disappear." Sana tried to laugh, to pretend it was a joke. "Disappear, that's absurd." He pointed the camera at her. "Smile." The flash went off. For a moment, everything was white. When her vision cleared, she was standing in the corridor again, facing Haroon's closed door. She blinked, had she imagined it. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. She hurried back to her apartment and locked the door. The next morning, she checked her phone. In her photo gallery, there was a new image. It showed her standing in her kitchen, the same one from Haroon's table, but this time behind her, a shadowy hand was reaching toward her neck. She didn't go to work, she didn't eat. By evening, she decided to call the police. But when they arrived and searched apartment 3B, it was empty. No furniture. No red lamp. No photos. Just bare walls and dust. The landlord swore no one had rented 3B for more than 5 years. Sana argued, shaking, describing Haroon's face, his coat, the smell. But the landlord simply frowned. That apartment, been sealed since the last tenant died in 2018, he said. He was a photographer, used to take pictures of his neighbors. People said his camera could steal souls. Sana didn't believe in ghosts, but when she got home that night, she found a single Polaroid on her bed. It showed her front door wide open, and the faint outline of a man in a brown coat standing just inside. 3 days later, her colleague visited her apartment because she hadn't answered calls. The door was unlocked. Inside, the lights were off, and the air smelled like rust and perfume. Her phone lay on the floor, screen cracked, camera open. The gallery contained one final photo, a close-up of her terrified face, taken from only a few inches away. The police labelled it as unexplained disappearance. The landlord locked both apartments and moved out. But sometimes, new tenants say that if you walk through the corridor at midnight, you can hear a faint click of a camera shutter. And if you check your phone the next morning, you might find a photo of yourself that you don't remember taking. The final story, the red window. Adil moved into the house at the edge of town because it was cheap. Too cheap, actually. It stood alone at the end of a narrow road, half hidden behind dry trees. The paint had peeled away, and one upstairs window was sealed with a thick red curtain. The real estate agent told him, "Just storage, don't worry about it." He didn't, not at first. He was a university student who needed quiet for his final thesis, and the house seemed perfect. Big, empty, and silent. But on his second night, he noticed something strange. The red curtain in the upstairs window moved. Not a gentle sway, it pulled sharply to the side, as if someone had looked out. He laughed nervously and told himself it was wind. Yet when he went outside to check, the window was locked from inside. Over the next week, the same thing happened again and again. Each night, exactly at 2:47 a.m., the curtain shifted. Once he saw a shadow behind it, thin shoulders, a head tilted as if watching. He shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. The next morning, he decided to open the room. The key was missing from the bunch the agent had given him, but he found a spare in an old drawer. When he unlocked the door, a gust of air rushed out, cold and heavy, smelling faintly of smoke. The room inside was empty, except for a small chair facing the window. Dust coated everything, but there were no footprints. He noticed something carved into the wall beside the window. "Don't open after dark." He laughed again, took a few photos for fun and left. That night at exactly 2:47 a.m. he heard soft knocking from upstairs. 3 slow taps, pause, then 3 again. He froze. The knocking continued until sunrise. By morning, he was exhausted. He went upstairs to prove to himself that it was nothing, and found the chair turned toward the door, as if waiting for him. His phone buzzed. He looked down and saw a new photo in his gallery. A picture of him sleeping, taken from above his bed. He dropped the phone, heart hammering. Someone had been inside. But there were no footprints, no signs of forced entry. He called the agent. The man went silent for a long time, then said quietly, "You saw the curtain move, didn't you?" Adil said yes. The man sighed. That house belonged to a photographer. He disappeared during a fire in that room. They say his soul still looks through that red window, waiting for someone to open it. Adil hung up, angry and frightened. He packed his things, ready to leave, but when he stepped outside, the world looked different. The air was grey, soundless. The road that led to town was gone, just endless dry fields. He ran back inside, grabbed his phone and called the police. The line connected, but the voice that answered was his own. "Why are you running?" it whispered. The red curtain fluttered upstairs. He heard footsteps above him, slow and heavy. He backed toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. The lights flickered. Then the house fell silent. When the police finally entered days later, they found the place empty. Only his phone remained, lying on the floor near the staircase. It was still recording a voice memo that lasted 3 hours. Most of it was static, but near the end a faint whisper could be heard. "Don't open after dark." Neighbors still say that sometimes, if you drive by that road at night, the red curtain in the upper window moves just slightly, as if someone is still watching. And if you stop the car and look long enough, you might see your own reflection in the glass waving back.